Cool. Hey everybody, TC and Jeremy here from Crank Revolution Bike Shop, and you're joining us today on our live stream to talk about e-bikes. And so when we say e-bikes, we mean electronically assisted bicycles. And so that's kind of, there's a lot of things out in the world. There's throttles, there's so many different options for what e-bikes are. But so what we kind of support, what we kind of work through are, e-bikes where it's a bike first that has an electric assist and has the pedal assist ability to it. Very few that actually have throttles. And so yeah, e-bikes, I mean, there's a lot of myths, there's a lot of misconceptions, there's a lot of ideas that people have that may not be accurate about what an e-bike is today.
Very much so.
Could have been something that it was true, 5 years ago, but yeah, they've changed a lot. They've come a very, very, very long way.
Well, one thing I noticed when I was looking into e-bikes, the first ever e-bike patent I could find was in 1895. So people are like, oh, e-bikes are new.
It's new.
They've been a long time coming. Now, battery science obviously wasn't that great back then, and they didn't catch on then.
Yes. And so, yeah, they're definitely, I mean, I don't think anyone here has ever, not seen something that we're like, they're catching on now. We're more and more e-bikes. I mean, the use of them, the growth of them, especially urban expanse of them, they're everywhere. Because they provide a really, really great option, as opposed to driving a car, to get around, to have this great mobility. And so you use an e-bike to commute to work, to move around.
Here's the thing. I think that we have to just kind of dispel a couple of things. Number one, EU versus where we are here in the US of A, there's a very big difference where I find a lot of the world and the numbers globally have grown enormously because bikes are a utility. Point A to point B, they have a purpose. They actually have streets and paths and everything designed around moving humans from point A to B. A lot of times in the US, people go, oh, it's cheating and things like that because we're based on fitness. I think we do need to recognize that globally versus the US, there are some differences there. But one thing that we'll take a look at, let's look at 2019, all before the crazy times. 3.7 million e-bikes were sold globally. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that was a very big start, and they were definitely growing overseas. But in 2022 alone, 1 million e-bikes were sold in the US. So it's really, really grown and really, really jumped. So you have to ask yourself, what do you think these people are using them for? But as we look forward, in 2022, the global e-bike market, the entire world, was valued at $37 billion. That is a massive infrastructure. So even if you think new bikes or e-bikes are toys and going away, they're not.
They're not.
They're taking over more and more. So I guess here's the speculation I would say. There's always advancement. It took years for disc brakes to be accepted and technology, electronic shifting. 10 years from now, where do you think that balance will be between fitness orientation and bikes for transportation?
And so if we go to, kind of what can e-bikes do, and because we can't talk about what's going to happen in 10 years without where the bike's going to go in 10 years. So today, we have a bike on our floor, the Specialized Vado SL5, that bike plus the additional battery, you get about 100 miles of range, up to 28 miles an hour of assist, and the bike total weighs less than 32 pounds, I think it is. So, so we're 32 pounds and 100 miles of range on a single charge. Yeah. That's huge, and that's where we're at today. So 10 years from now, I mean, very easy, you can say that those numbers double with a lesser weight. Double is a very conservative ask for that.
Electric car realm, we're seeing new batteries come out.
I saw a Lucid that has a 500-mile range yesterday. I'm just like, oh my God.
I still want that dream of the futurism way back when they thought we'd have small nuclear reactors in all of the cars.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not the goal. Maybe just release smart electric bikes.
But so, yeah, I mean, 10 years from now, what does the average bike shop floor look like? I mean, yeah, it's going to be mostly electric is what I have to assume because, if it increases your utility, increases your ability to ride, and it's, I've always appreciated Specialized marketing around their e-bikes. It's you. It's not a different person on top of the bike. It's you, only faster. And who doesn't want to go faster? And so, once you kind of start to think about e-bikes in that specific way, where you want to get a great workout, cool, pedal harder. You want to have an easier day? Cool, pedal less. You have the option, you have the flexibility to ride how you want to ride in that day, on that moment, at that time.
It gives you options. People who say, okay, well, I don't need it, and we're going to get to the misconceptions later. It's not about need, it's about utility. For example, if you go to
For some
like,
people, it is a need,
well,
and it's
sure.
great because it gets them active and gets them out. It's a
You
great
remember
thing.
the old, what was it, Airdyne, like
Yeah.
workout machines? There was no change in resistance. It was all the same. And now today you can often change the amount of resistance. Well, e-bikes, think of it that way. That dial where you can change it. You want to work hard that day? Do it.
Turn it up.
You don't want to work hard? You don't have to do it. So here's some of the big pros why I think you should look at an e-bike. Number one, e-bikes cost less than a penny a mile to charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did come out of a multi-year period where gas went insane. I remember thinking gas would never hit 5, and I remember paying 5. That was in the Chicago metropolitan area, though. So it's a big thing for cheap transportation. So if you're looking for a way to cut your budget, you want to look at the budget of the e-bike, but also cost of ownership. Cars are expensive. Wear and tear is expensive. E-bikes, we'll get to more with the tech later that you've prepared, but a cent a mile. Now, I did read that the average e-bike commute is usually in that 26 to 30 minutes. Now, if you're averaging, say, 15, 16 miles an hour,
Yeah.
you're definitely looking at that 8 to 10 mile being a very easy commute to do on an e-bike. Another one, like we talked about, though, you can choose how hard you want to work out.
Yeah.
Mine, anyhow, I have the Specialized Creo. I can turn the motor off, and it's much akin to riding like a 30-pound steel frame bike.
Yeah.
like
It's just a heavy
an old
road
Schwinn.
bike. Yeah.
And the beautiful thing with that, I'm not fighting the motor. The motor does disengage on mine. So as a buying purchase, make sure that you're looking at something that does default to just being a bike.
Yeah, and so much of picking and choosing what e-bike's right for you is riding, is trying a whole bunch of them, and so that's the thing for us is the moment someone comes in and asks us about it, go ride one. Just push them out the door with a bike, because so much of what people think it's we can sit there. Oh, is it going to feel like this? Is it going to feel like that? Is the torque going to be too much? Just go ride it and just see how it feels. And so when you get that idea of, okay, cool, I can put on the highest setting and this is this is the response that I get. I can turn the motor off and pedal the bike, and it still is just kind of a slightly heavy bike. But so getting out and actually experiencing these things and really kind of getting a that personal understanding as to, I feel like X on top of this bike.
There's no replacement for that.
No.
I think the thing is, you wouldn't buy a car just based on principle. Maybe you would. I mean, maybe you just don't care and you want to get from A to B and you want a minivan. But when you're looking at the experience, say you've never driven a car, they have different purposes. I mean, a Jeep is not going to do the same thing as a minivan, although they can overlap. With e-bikes specifically, the thing I love about it too is you can get the workout you want, but then say there's a huge hill on your climb. You're like, I would commute to work, but that big hill by the end of my commute by the hospital. Kick it on full turbo. Race up that hill. Go and do it, because that gives you options. And that's one thing that's a big pro for that. Another one is when I wanted to get into group riding, you got me into the group riding experience, and we probably had 30 to 60 usually on those rides.
Yeah.
I was just getting into my fitness journey, and I could not keep up. And the first thing that happens if you feel like you're outclassed, you want to quit. You want to fall off the bag and say, "Don't worry, guys or gals. I'm sorry, I'm not coming next week. I won't hold you up." E-bikes are a great way in your own mind to cover that gap, that whether it's real or whether it's just in your mind. And I think we've all faced that insecurity when trying something new. You can absolutely then kick up and ride with a group, and you have that safety assistance if you need it.
Yeah. So when I used to live in Utah, we had a lot of e-bikes available to us, and so when people would come to visit us, I would take my regular analog bike, and then I would give them the e-bike. We were coming from Chicagoland, we're coming from flatland, we're going up to elevation, and we're going to much harder terrain. The e-bike is a great equalizer.
Yeah.
It allows more people to ride together because you have that motor to rely on, to work with, to pick and choose how hard do you want to go in that moment, and it allows for more people to ride, and that's a great thing.
Okay, and disclaimer, all facts discussed and ideas and opinions are not medical professional advice.
Yeah.
Why do I say that? Is because a lot of times what happens, now I have type 2 diabetes, and if I don't control my blood sugars, it can become very hard to work out. You have a lot of fatigue, a lot of muscle pain, you're not feeling right. But there's also things like asthma, or if you have heart issues where you shouldn't get your heart in different zones, always talk to your doctor. But what I love is e-bikes can also keep you from having to quit that experience of riding a bike. Riding a bike is great for fitness. It's not hard on the knees. It can be as easy or as hard as you want it to be. But if you are covering something that has a cardiac issue or things like this, talk to your doctor, because that can keep you from stopping. And a lot of times, if you feel like you can't exercise because of a medical issue, it just gets worse, because then you're not moving at all.
If you're not moving, if you're sedentary, nothing gets better when you're sedentary.
This could be a stopgap for you to continue doing what you love, or if it's something where you're like, man, I can bike ride most of the time, but on that ride, I might have an asthma attack. Not saying you shouldn't stop the bike immediately and address it, but these are ways that you can control your comfort. And I think that's a big pro to buying e-bikes that you don't necessarily have with analog bikes.
Yeah.
And then the other one, you don't have kids yet.
No.
Pulling kids in the trailer. So many dads and moms get this idea that I'm going to buy a bike, I'm going to grab a trailer,
Gonna
and I'm
do
going to
it.
tell my kids. Then it turns out one kid's 50 pounds, the other one's 30 pounds. That's 80 pounds on your heavy 35-pound fitness bike.
The trailer weighs 10 pounds too.
Yeah,
So.
trailer weighs extra, and it just becomes a lot harder than you intended. So although you wanted to spend family time, the thing I love about these e-bikes, a lot of them can be switched over to also pull a trailer. And doesn't mean that you should with all of them, but it is something that can give you that extra boost where, okay, dad's got the e-bike or mom's got the e-bike with the kids in trailer just to compensate for that extra 80-pound rucksack you're towing.
Yeah, just to help pull it along and just allow someone to, more easily and with fewer, fewer excuses. If riding your bike is something where you have that flexibility to push it harder, to take it easier based on how that ride's going in the moment, it takes away a lot of those excuses of, I don't feel great. Maybe I'm not going to feel good, when I start riding. Oh, there's that headwind. It eliminates that. And so many of our customers, tell us that yes, this is what gets them to be riding much more often, much more consistently, because it takes away that excuse, takes away that like fear and anxiety.
Well, for me, that's one of the biggest things that can hold you back is when you get into that habit, they say do it for 30 days, it becomes so regular, it's so easy to break the habit. And then all those little obstacles become something that hold you back. So here's the thing though. So I really think e-bikes are going to be a huge part of changing in the industry. And let's just use one little quick disclaimer. We're not advocating that right now there should be hidden motors and racing or things like that.
Well, cheating and racing is a whole different conversation.
Is a different side, but I do think we're going to see motors in that become much more, just as we've seen electric cars take over a huge part of the market share because it does make a lot of sense. Now, there are some cons though.
I mean, of course, like with anything, there's always going to be the trade-off. And so right now what we're seeing is, a higher initial cost. And so e-bikes, on par, or basically taking your traditional bike and adding $1,000 to it gets you to a lot of what the e-bike costs look like in terms of build out, in terms of spec, and so much of that, is just that initial cost, that weight. It's a heavier bike, and so our bikes here in the shop range from high 20s to I think the most heaviest bike is about 70 pounds. And so there are some e-bikes that get up to 120. I mean, these massive, massive bikes. And so there's a lot of weights and costs, and harder to transport therefore, and harder to live with, harder to move around. But it's something where the cons as they are, I mean, more expensive, heavier. It's all things that one with each year, each step, the technology is getting better. Weights have come down significantly. Ranges have gone up. It's a really, really great option, great package. And that's why, in a traditional bike shop like what we have here, which I'll consider fairly traditional, we have, 8 different models of e-bikes. So we've got a lot of different options, a lot of different variation. Hello. And yes, we are still open. We are still a functioning bike shop. And so let me step aside here for a second.
All right, one thing I did notice is we had a couple of people that were talking about some tech issues here. I do show that the mics are live and that should be good. Let's just see, I'm going to do a wave and we'll do a quick check there. All right, so let's see. All right, so hopefully you can hear me. Otherwise, I have this other mic here as well. So that is something, though, that you very much do get what you pay for with e-bikes. I always caution people that, because there's a lot of things with that. If you buy a $1,200 like Amazon e-bike, there are some characteristics you might not want to see. Like, for example, one thing you always want to keep in mind, if you're adding power to a bike, it's a really good idea not to forget about making sure you have really good braking. And that's why when I see, for example, V-brake with pads on the rims on e-bikes, that is a little troubling factor for me. Make sure at least you're looking at disc brake. That is something that you really want to make sure. And then on top of it, when I say you get what you pay for, I do have a couple of customers that bought various Amazon bikes from overseas specifically over COVID. And what happened is they had an electrical problem. Now, the thing about most bike shops, they're not all, electrical engineers. A lot of us can do basic soldering, things like that. But what we can't do is really keep that paired where the controller and motor, we can guarantee there's no errors, because that's in the software systems. And so they bought it during, the 2020-21 phase where everyone was rushing out product. I think a lot of companies didn't know what they were using or used what they could get their hands on. The trick with that is then, if you try to warranty something from overseas, they'll send new parts, but they're not necessarily compatible with what's on your bike already or currently. So that is something definitely to keep in mind, that repairability becomes a big issue. A lot of people ended up with, say 1,000 to 2,000 pound or $2,000 bricks, essentially, where you're gonna have to take it to somebody specifically to get the motor rewired or to do electronic repairs, and that gets really cost prohibitive very quickly. So one thing that I would say is sticking with the major brands where you know that in 4 or 5 years, if that battery or motor needs service, that switcher component, there's not only a good record, but there's also a clear path to getting that warranty work done or path done. So you do definitely get what you pay for on those. The other thing I'd say, where you are, you should be at least aware of your local municipality rules as well as your state rules. For example, in Illinois currently, there are lots of things going through legislation. One is, what is an e-bike? And generally it's at 750 watt and below. They are legally allowed on the roads, but it's one of those where certain municipalities or park districts or forest preserves may prohibit e-bike use. And that is something that is changing, and there's a lot of advocacy things in different states changing that very thing and pushing it through. But one thing that I'm noticing is a lot of the cheaper e-bikes are going more and more and more power. And 750 watts is really an obscene amount of power for a bicycle. That's much more the electric rocket experience. But in that case, you might legally find 750 to 1,000 watt that you're really on a different vehicle that is an unregistered vehicle. And that could be different liability if there's an accident or things like that. So right now, my biggest thing to people is be aware of what your classes are. What is a class 1 e-bike, a class 2, and class 3? But then on top of class 1, 2, and 3, what are your local laws? So that is a possible con in your area. Another thing that I'd say that can be a con, and you want to kind of think of when you're buying that e-bike specifically, is repairability and roadside repairs. Now, your typical bicycle is really easy to take off a wheel and do a tube repair. And if you don't know how, go to your local bike shop. It's something we do like to teach people. E-bikes specifically, there's different motor systems. We're going to do a show and tell in a little bit and kind of look at some of these. You have ones that have a motor down in the bottom bracket area, and then you have ones that are on like the wheel hub motor setups. The hub motor setups, especially if you're not super comfortable with doing tire and tube changes, having tools and the types of tools you need to do a roadside repair are quite different. And a lot of those e-bikes are also very heavy.
Yep. I'm back.
And I used to carry so many tools, so I probably would have been okay, but like you need an adjustable wrench, you need tire levers, sometimes you need to have side cutters to cut, wiring harnesses and stuff to get into them.
On the side of the road? Is that what we're doing these things?
Imagine if you had one of those Amazon hub drive motorbikes. It weighs 80 pounds.
Okay.
You blow a tire. How do you easy do a tube repair?
You don't. There is no easy.
There is no easy.
That's what I mean. Something that when we have our repair stands, we have everything set up to do things properly and professionally, and there's still cursing, there's still frustration, there's still fighting with the bike in the stand. And it comes to like a QC, quality control, quality check, how tight are the tolerances, how well are these things made to come apart and go back together. Yeah, and yeah, to have an adjustable wrench to take your wheels on and off is a huge pain. Yeah.
Yes, it's just not, it's when you're looking at those type of bikes, the reason that I chose specifically, I have a bottom bracket with where the motor is located. Mm-hmm. I can still take off the wheel and service it as I would a regular bicycle. Yep. So if you're a commuter or something like that, that is something to consider. Also, my particular bike is that 30-pound bike we talked about. It is a bottom bracket drive style motor. Mm-hmm. So it also means that if I had to call an Uber and throw it in the back of a vehicle, it's a 32-pound bike, not an 80 or 90-pound car replacement. And that's the thing I'd say about Amazon. It's like a Venton. It looks like a futuristic motorbike. You have this one that's 20-inch wheels that are fat tire. That's great, but they are very much the experience of their design, whereas with other e-bikes from major brands, you can get an e-mountain specific, you can get an e-fitness bike, you can get an e-road bike, and you can emulate the experience you're looking for. So what I caution people when you're looking at these Amazon bikes, what is the bike for? Is it
Yeah.
designed that way because that's the way they could engineer it? Or does it serve a particular purpose?
Well, it's also one where, when you have those kind of 20-inch by 4, like these 20-inch fat tires, fat wheel things, bike shops don't have parts for those on hand.
Yeah.
You get a flat tire, okay, we're going to have to order something. And then, so yeah, we just had something picked up. It was $20 per tube because, tubes they're meant to be, they're bought and sold in 1,000, 10,000
Wear and
quantities.
tear.
When you
Yeah.
have one 20-inch by 4-inch fat tire, it's not a common thing. So yeah, that cost of that specialty part is going to be considerably higher. And so yeah, it can just definitely run your repair bill up significantly because they're non-traditional, non-norm,
And
bike
not
norm
saying that
parts.
they're bad. I mean, it's one of those where some things that you buy just operate the way they operate, and that's the way it is. But that's just for around town fun. If you're a cyclist, though, looking to bridge into e-bikes, get an e-bike that is specific to what you're trying to do.
That fits your goals, that fits what the experience that you're trying to have. And you don't necessarily know what that experience is today, but yeah, that's why coming on in, talking with somebody, taking some bikes out for a ride, getting a feel for what what the bikes have to offer is such a valuable proposition.
Well, and that's the thing too. So those are some of the pros and cons. The cons are really about what you buy, not necessarily that owning an e-bike has a con. I definitely enjoy it, and I've decided really moving forward, I'm probably going to only own e-bikes. Because you can have an e-mountain and go mountain bike, and I can keep up with much faster people.
And one of the things that's great about e-mountain bikes specifically, so when you have especially like that bottom bracket drive and a battery in the down tube, that puts that added weight of the bike exactly where you want it. You can jump the bike, you can move the bike much more easily. If you have a rear rack that has a battery pack in it and a rear wheel that's got a the motor in it, that whole tail of that bike is super heavy. It doesn't handle like you want it to because you've got more weight behind you than in front of you. When you put that centered weight, centered and low, it really kind of makes the bike more stable, more comfortable, more safe, and it jumps really nicely. And that's always fun to add in. Like if you can jump 25 feet on a bike and be comfortable about it, it's great. But yeah, when that bike has that centered low weight, it makes life so much easier.
Well, and you're not going to try to, I hope you're not, unless I guess you're Johnny Knoxville, going to try to jump a weird e-fat bike.
That's true, yeah.
Off Amazon with a 2-bolt stem. That's a little technical if you're going to get into that. But that is the thing, is purpose. And if you are a cyclist looking for a purpose, get the e-bike that's for that purpose, or start there. So let's talk about some of the misconceptions about e-bikes. So we have people come into the bike shop all the time, and like TC said, the first rule I say to anybody is if you don't know what an e-bike is, we all love to have conjecture about what it is, but just go ride one first.
Ride it. Just try it.
But then ride a different one or a different style and find what you look for. Just like a lot of people walk into a bike shop, they haven't ridden a bike in 20 years, and they're like, well, I want the one that's like that. And they think it's a basic hardtail mountain because that's what a lot of kids' bikes are. Experience the other ones, and the one that feels the most natural, the most fun, the most exciting to you is what you should buy. Same thing with e-bikes. But the misconceptions are that e-bikes are complicated, hard to operate, and hard to understand is one of them.
Okay.
I don't really buy into that because my grandma used a cell phone just fine, and those are pretty darn complicated compared to e-bikes.
Well, so and that's like a quality made e-bike, a bike shop brand e-bike. It has. You can use it, just you push one button to turn it on, and then you ride the bike. That's all that you need to know. Ours have very simple displays where they either tell you a number percentage for how much battery you have left. So there's no confusion. If it's 100%, that's 100%.
How many bars do I got?
And then otherwise it's 10 individual bars. And so and it turns red when you get down to like 30%. So it's pretty straightforward as to, hey, you're good. Hey, you've got a little bit of this.
Well, a lot of industry bikes right now, though, tout the smart app, and this is controllable, and you can change your torque.
And some of us hate those things.
You can do all
You
of those
can.
things.
Absolutely you can. You don't have to.
I can leave my cell phone at home, turn on my e-bike, and it just has 3 settings. Boom, boom, boom. But if I want to go into my phone, I can do a million things.
You can, turn things on.
They're not overly complicated. They're not horribly hard to maintain. I mean, basically, the mechanic parts are just mechanical parts.
Yeah, a lot of the bikes that we have here, it's the same tires, same tubes, same chains, same everything else that we put on every other bike, and the install and removal process is exactly the same. And so that's what makes it so much easier when it is, it's not this overly complicated, overly, configured kind of e-bike mess,
Right,
when it's really just
exactly.
plug and play as any other bike would. It makes life so much easier. And then, yeah, I mean, the ease of, like, I'm not a big app person. I like to kind of low grade, downgrade, make things as simple as I can for myself, because I like to turn my brain off and go ride a bike.
Yeah.
And I can do that with an e-bike because I can just have, not have my phone, not worry about anything there, just run the bike and run, within its parameters as I have it. You can change your level of assist typically at the handlebar with a plus and minus switch. It's very
Super
simple.
easy. Super easy.
And yeah, you go, for me, I just go based on feel. If I'm feeling good, turn it down, pedal harder. Feeling rough, turn it up. Enjoy myself a little bit more. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Okay, I have to turn the bike on, go into my phone, check this
Right.
confirmation code, and you don't need to do all of that. You can
No.
just ride the bike.
And the last thing I want to do is have another app sending me
All the notifications. So there's been quite a few coming, yeah.
20% off today. But that's something is you can have the tech experience or you can have the basic experience. So they're not complicated.
Yeah, it's up to you.
The other one, and this one kills me. And you know what? You always try to be super kind and you always try to be very polite. Here's one thing I'd say, and this is my hot take. If I hear a lot more people saying, I'll get one when I'm old, that is just driving me nuts. That drives me nuts. It's not about being old. You don't have to have a health issue. There's 100 reasons I can really think of, and we could list, of why it's okay to ride one now. If you're racing, don't cheat.
Well, yeah, that's
Anything
it.
else with a bike, it's better and there's more versatility. So what do you say to people when they say, well, it's just for old people?
So I'm it's you, only faster. Like if it's the like, oh my God, if it gets you to ride more, it's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're somebody who, hey, I'm already riding 5 days a week, and I love my analog bikes, and I love the simplicity, cool, great. May not be the right thing for you today.
Right.
But if it's something where, hey, I only ride maybe once a week, and I have my reasons why I don't, and then yeah, also when I am riding, I'm struggling and pushing, I'm not enjoying myself all the time. Try an e-bike, and that's why, like, for us, it's cool. You can take it for a couple days, try the bike, live with it, and that's because once you start to understand how it actually works into your routine, into your process, that's when it's like, oh, this is totally a viable thing.
Right.
Because yeah, for me, it's something where I get out, not nearly as much as I used to, because I'm far too busy with owning a bike shop and all the other things that I do. But it's something where, if I was to take an e-bike home and have it with me, I would have fewer excuses. And just, if I can get on and go spin for a half hour, that's better than not spinning for a half hour on any bike.
And here's the fact. In 2022, in the United States, there were more e-bike riders between the ages of 14 and 44 than 45 and above.
Okay.
We think that you have to have some form of physical or other type of handicap that we have to make accessibility for. It's not the case. Riding a bike is riding a bike, and this is a new, fast, exciting way to ride a bike. And you're going to find a lot more people
It's a lot of fun.
in that up to 44 range than above. So please don't think of e-bikes that way. That one does drive me a little crazy. We talked about e-bikes are cheating. I'm going to say yes. If you were using an e-bike in something and trying to lie about it, you are cheating. Otherwise, who are you cheating?
Who are you cheating?
Who?
Cheating yourself? Oh, wait, you're outside, you're riding a bike. Cool, that's great.
Oh, you can choose your workout. So if you're cheating yourself, just turn the motor down or turn it off if you want to. But then I say they're enabling because they enable you to do things that you
And that's in a
can't
positive way,
necessarily
right?
do. Yes.
Yes.
Meaning, I have a hill, my knee hurts. I'm gonna turn up the motor. That keeps you from causing a lot more damage. There are days that we're too gassed, that our nutrition isn't right, our hydration isn't right. There are a lot of things that can happen. An e-bike allows you to tailor it to you. And you know what? If you are cheating yourself, just turn down the motor.
You're in control.
But then the last misconception, I think this comes from car pop culture from back in the day when it was like Fisker Karma versus Tesla, and then there was like a several-month period where everything was on fire everywhere you went with every vehicle that was sold for a while. It was insane. Fires, fires, fires. Even in the news in this last 6 months, 7 months, in New York, there have been a series of fires from e-bike rental companies. And although lithium-ion fires and thermal runaway, essentially is what it is, can happen, there are some practices that keep you from that.
Yeah.
Number one, don't buy bikes with super cheap batteries. Not singling out anywhere particular, but a lot of them do come from China.
You get what you pay for, 100%.
You do. And that is something, another thing I see a lot of times is when we see these fires and things like this, when you look at the photos of the area, they will have extension cord after extension cord into power strip, slammed with cord.
With,
That's
12 bikes plugged in at a time.
When I grew up, it was always don't try to plug 15 things into one outlet. But then on top of it, I think the thing that bothers me too, I have heard and I have seen, we all like to go on Amazon, like I have to convert from this to this or this to this. And there are a lot of cheap products on Amazon that I don't know that I trust with electricity, frankly.
Yeah.
One thing I was looking for, salt lamps, like those therapeutic little ones. Then I read a bunch of reviews and like, yeah, they all melted and burned up. Your salt lamp should not be a fire hazard, in my opinion.
No, it's supposed to be calming. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to help your environment, not burn your environment.
So that's another one that's just really to think about. And then also common sense. Don't leave your e-bike plugged in perpetually forever. A lot of them do have charging circuits that turn off. But anything can go wrong over time. Let's just make sure that you're doing smart practices. Don't leave it plugged in 24 hours a day if you're not riding it for months.
Yeah, and there, I mean, back to the cost of things. So yeah, if your e-bike costs $700, the majority of name brand e-bikes, their batteries cost $700.
That's a fact.
So that's there's a reason why these things are more expensive, and the safety, the security, the protocols within that's built in the batteries that keep these things from happening are there for good reason. Yeah. And so and that's why practice that we have here is if it's a non-branded e-bike, we won't store the bike with the battery. The battery needs to be removed for us to store the bike to be able to service it because it's a liability. It's something that we don't want this place to go away.
No, and the thing is, we all have best practices. I myself, when I plug my bike in, they don't take forever to charge. My particular bike takes about 3 hours to fully charge. If I left it plugged in overnight, would I be worried? Not if I'm plugged into a safe outlet, not through a series of adapters. I wouldn't worry about it, but I wouldn't leave it for vacation or if I'm going away for the weekend, just unplug it. Yeah. It's one of those things. Now, are battery fires possible? I guess.
Absolutely.
I mean, they do happen. They're in the news. Do I think it's likely to happen? Have I had any customers? Have I had it happen to? No, I have not.
Yeah, nobody that's even broached it. And it's something where, if you're using, standard outlet, everything without multiple adapters is always a problem because that's just going to increase resistance. And then, best practices of not leaving something plugged in perpetually. That's
Well, and then there is the one, though, that I think you all should be aware of and we should be super careful about. If you ride an e-bike in the rain, you will die instantly.
Naturally. Why would they try to, waterproof? Oh, wait, no, they are waterproof. Oh, man.
Good e-bikes are weather sealed to the level you need. I don't know what an IP4
It's IPX67 or IPX68.
And it doesn't die these days. That's what I know. But I also know that I've ridden my e-bike in the rain. There is weather sealing little O-rings in the areas that it needs to be. Yeah. I wouldn't be fearful of it. Now, would I take it out in a torrential hurricane? Well, I probably wouldn't ride my bike in a hurricane, frankly, but I'm not afraid of water with my e-bike.
Correct. And so, and that's the, e-bikes, especially, you can always look up the current stats for name brand stuff, and it'll be IPX6, 7. I used to know all of this because that was part of my job. I don't remember it anymore because it's exhausting, but it's something where, they're built and designed to be ridden in the areas where you're going to ride them. Mountain bikes are meant to be splashed into the water. They're not meant to be submerged. But you can
mountain bike, but don't get it wet.
Don't get it wet. Never see rain. It's not an option. And so they are designed with that in mind that hey, you're going to run into some inclement weather. You're going to run into some stuff. They're not designed to be submerged. That's a simple don't take it out to the river and dunk it and be like, oh, look out, and it's not a good idea. Electrical components and water never really mix.
Salt water
one of the things that we used to have to deal with when the batteries would be able to be removed from the bikes, people talk about, okay, do I transport it with the battery in or out? And the answer is in, because when it's in, everything is sealed better. If you take that battery out, the chance of water, moisture, something getting onto those contacts, then when you reassemble it for that to spark, that to jump, that increases that. So it's best to keep those batteries in the, the bike, in the motor, through transport and storage, because it's, it's sealed in that way. It's not sealed if you remove the component. So
before we jump into show and tell, and we kind of want to give some of our guidance of how to walk you down what bike to choose. And there are so many types, and we can give you some of the points of views that we ask questions of our customers to help guide them on their path. let's jump to the TC Tech Talk moment.
Okay.
In the next couple of minutes, I want to ask you a couple of questions from a mechanic standpoint. Can you bring an e-bike to a bike shop?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's
Simple.
read some of
Simple.
these.
Yes, you can.
What is specific, though, that we should know about maintenance and upkeep on an e-bike? Like you've talked about battery storage, things like this, that is different than an acoustic or analog bike.
And so something that's important, especially with the name brand bikes. So we're a specialized retailer. We have access to the full suite of these specialized, back-end firmware, software, all of that kind of diagnostic tools. So when someone brings us a Trek e-bike, there isn't a whole lot that I can do electronically with it. I can change the tubes, I can change the tires, I can change the chain, but I can't plug in that motor, run a diagnostics, and learn from it because I'm not a Trek dealer. And so yeah, knowing who you bought your e-bike from or who you're working with and what brands they can support is a big part of what kind of e-bikes is, because it's a very specific thing going forward. So that's a big part of it. Two would be, understanding not every mechanic is comfortable talking and working with e-bikes. So getting to know your shop, getting to know who's there, what kind of what training have they done, what level are they, are they selling e-bikes, are they comfortable with e-bikes? Because yeah, if you're bringing something that you bought online that they know nothing about and you're expecting them to have a level of expertise about this one thing,
right?
Because there's only 10,000 different brands, and it's impossible for us to keep up with everything.
Different brands, different controllers,
different electronic,
softwares,
and so it's one of those where it's understand that the bike shops, we try our best to be knowledgeable, to help our customers, but at the same time we are human, and these are things that the market is so expansive, is changed so rapidly. We are great stewards, great support for what we offer, because that's what we learn, that's what we think is best for our customers. There is so much out there that we don't know, because we would just be sitting in a room just scrolling off of all of these, and and it's, guess what, this stuff changes now. It's so rapidly, it's every 3 months, it's a different everything.
And ask your shop if they have somebody who is more comfortable than others. If I go to an automotive repair place, I know that the person who might do my ball joint is different than an engine repairer. Not every person is adept at every single thing that they try. So you'd say there's not a lot of difference, would you say? I noticed there's some component differences, though, generally from the function of components for e-bikes versus regular.
And so, that a lot of times comes to like the drivetrain of the bike. So the e-bike drivetrains are more tailored to that kind of use. And so yeah, what we've seen, chains wear out faster, cassettes wear out faster, especially for a lot of folks with the 28-mile-an-hour bikes that don't like to shift, and they just sit in that highest gear and just there's only 11 teeth. There's only 11 teeth in that smallest cog generally. And so yeah, you're going to wear that out faster when you've got an extra 250 400 watts pulling against it, and you're constantly sitting there. So yeah, definitely still shift, still use your gears, and understand that, yeah, you're gonna have a shorter time to replace the chain. And it's, I'm noticing it's about half, because you've got about twice as much power. So
would you say, though, there's a substantial amount of maintenance needed for an e-bike above a regular bike?
No.
Not
No,
really.
like with all things, bikes really only require regular maintenance when they're used. And yeah, if you're using it every day and it's in the shop once a month, that makes sense. If you're using it 3 times a year and it's in the bike every other time, that's a problem. So kind of, there isn't this significant curve of then so much more service, so much, it's nothing that's out of.
So now, do you prefer, sometimes certain people call them acoustic and electric bikes.
I say analog.
Okay, good. Analog and electric. So if the maintenance is very, very similar, though, what would you say the 2 key delineations between that is? I'm thinking it's probably something with the battery. And then also, what are the most common repairs you see, though, that are e-bike specific in the brands you're comfortable working on?
Okay. And so, like chains and drivetrains. That's where, because of that added power, because of that, and these are what we're talking about, the mid-drive, anything that's pulling that chain, it's just going to cause more wear because it's adding an extra 250, 500, up to 500 watts. So there's that. That's going to be more common. And then, if you're running all the time, tires are going to wear out too. But all of this stuff, everything there, it's all it's all in line with, okay, cool. If this rider was riding X amount on this heavy of a bike,
Sure.
these things are going to wear out in this timeline. It's not something that is showing these like drastically different things.
But battery.
The battery, yeah, and so yeah, the battery and the motor components, those are going to have a firmware, and so those are going to need to be plugged in and evaluated. And some of the smart apps now at this point are telling you, hey, there's a new firmware available for your bike. Take it to the shop, get it updated. And so that's really helpful to us because it takes out the having to plug in every single bike that comes in.
Yeah.
We know, okay, cool, this one needs a firmware update. This one doesn't necessarily. This one just needs mechanical adjustments. And so yeah, going through and updating that firmware, it's something where if your bike's working, great, and the firmware is all working together.
You can skip an update, maybe.
The most common thing that we'll see is somebody's bike will start to throw an error, start to have some problems, and then we'll plug it in, and based on the firmware, it'll say, we'll actually have a fairly decent outline of this error was caused by this firmware. Now that that's updated, that should be eliminated. And it's kind of like taking your car and when you got any lights on the dash, getting them to run that diagnostic. It's that same kind of just that initial check. That doesn't mean it's nothing. No, don't worry. It's only time to worry when things are actually broken, making noise and not moving. That's when you've got a problem. But if it's all functioning well enough, just having that bike shop plug it in and take a look.
Well, and so many
always
of the
worth
updates
it.
that I've seen are really improvements in battery efficiency, motor efficiency, and tweaks. Not things that you have to worry about stopping and ride. It's very seldom do we ever see something specifically like that. So let's take a quick dive into, because we're going to show a little show and tell here on some of the bikes that we carry and who they're for. But before we do that, I want to take a look at just a few things here real quick. I'm going to ask you some questions, because I notice our camera feed sometimes cuts in and out. So for e-bikes, every brand company kind of has, we're going to talk about the bigger brands, Trek, Specialized, Giant. Those are very big brands that have different types of experiences laid out for customer, but then there's also the more bike versus car replacement. So the first thing I'll say is when you're looking at an e-bike, choose your assist path. Now Specialized has 2 times your output or 4. One is an electric rocket ship that gives you excitement of being like an electric coaster. Some of them just feel like, imagine being on a moving walkway at the airport.
Yeah.
You just feel super
like,
huge. Like,
ooh.
I'm Captain America, and you're walking, and it's still you're still walking. So with those though, like a 2X or 4X, how would you choose? For me, it's weight between the high electric motor experience and the low. Weight is the biggest decider for me, whether I want to have a 50, 60 pound e-bike or something that's 30, and Specialized refers those to the super lights, SLs.
Are you asking me specifically,
I'm
like
asking
which
you,
bike?
what are some of the thoughts of what makes you choose? Like the Levo. The Levo is a fantastic e-bike, and it's, like he said, you can jump with them, you can do a lot of trail stuff with them. How would you push a customer between the 8 to 10 pounds heavier, full power versus the SL version?
And so I'll say for me, the conversation of the 4 times versus the SL, it basically comes to rider experience and rider use. And so that rider who is more experienced, has more time on the bikes, has been riding more, but just wants that little bit extra. Yeah, the 2 times the super light definitely makes the most sense for them. But if it's that rider, hey, I'm just getting into the sport, I'm nervous about having enough power to get up these hills, having enough, that 4 times motor definitely kind of covers that more simply, more easily, because it's twice as much power. It's a lot of options. So yeah, the full like Levo mountain bike world, that's gonna be the best. You can put anybody on that bike and they're gonna have a great time. The SL is still not enough power for some people. It's you'll find some trails where it's just you got to hit the line right. You got to pick and choose. It's more of that kind of fine, kind of graceful tool as opposed to more of that blunt hammer.
Right.
Because the blunt hammer is always fun to swing a hammer. It always works. And so having that ability to kind of choose which option is best for you based on your experience, based on what you're looking for, is a huge thing.
Well, weight is really a consideration. Like for example, if you have a car rack in the back of your car, you do want to check what it's rated for, but do you really want a 50 to 60 pound, in some cases 80 or 90 pound bike swinging back there? The answer is probably no. But what kind of does it for me is, do you want the electric experience or do you want the bicycle experience?
True.
Pick that first. And then if you're looking for all electric insanity, you can look for those, like I said, try not to go over 750 watt, because right now that is a question with legislation. But get that motor experience, but it's not going to quite feel like riding a bike. Now, if you get a bicycle with a motor, though, it feels like more like an assist. So weight is a big one for me. Another big deciding factor, I think, for everyone, and they talk about with cars, range anxiety.
Yeah.
I'm always fearful that my battery's going to die and I'm going to be stuck. Oh wait, it's a bike.
No, you just keep pedaling.
So make sure that your bike still functions like a bike. And the reason I say that, just a real quick 10-second breakdown. Class 1, pedal assist. Up to 20, it won't help you go faster. You can try to pedal faster than 20, but it's a heavy bike. Class 2, you're usually seeing some type of throttle operation. It's not a natural bike, but up to 20. Class 3, up to 28 pedal assist. It's fast. So with those different classes, that's one of the things you want to break down is range and battery. Batteries are super heavy. So if you're buying it can go 100 miles, it might also weigh 80 pounds.
120 I've heard too.
Oh yeah,
120
They
pounds.
get heavy, and that's a motorcycle essentially. So first of all, think of two. Is this something that you're going to go out of your garage, wheel up, and then start riding off through the neighborhood? Or is it something you have to transport?
Put in the car, get there.
That is a big thing. So if you're looking at a 50, 60 pound bike, and they always say, electric bikes for old people, 50 to 80 pounds, lifting that in their car. I don't want to do that at 40.
It's not fun.
I don't want to do that.
It's not fun.
So that is something to think about that can help you make that decision. And then also that FOMO of distance. Everyone says, I want to ride a Century. Do you? Do you want to ride a Century on an e-bike? Like, if you're not capable of riding a Century, you probably could do it with an e-bike, but that is such a weird use case. Get an app like Strava, record 30 rides. If your average ride is 16 miles, great. You can run any bike at its highest output, no problem at that 20-mile mark.
I do, yeah. I always appreciate that. Like, well, what if I do,
What if
so
I?
much more? And so, like, if you're 5 hours is a long time on a bike,
Right.
E-bike or non-e-bike, it's a
Yeah.
long time on a bike. And so, yeah, if 90% of your rides fit, very healthily into what that range is advertised as, it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Because, yeah, don't worry about that 5%, that 1% use.
When so many YouTube reviewers, they'll tell you, this could work except for this situation. Not everything has to be a Swiss Army knife.
No.
The around town bike to pull the kids, all right, it's got to fit in the back of the car, so it's going to be lighter. I just need a little extra power. Really break down what you need and don't get caught up in the ifs.
Oh, yeah. And also don't worry about if it's a 48 volt versus 56 volt versus all of that math, all of the numbers math for so much of e-bikes.
Yeah.
Once you start talking about how efficient is the motor actually and how is it if it's mid-drive versus rear drive,
Right.
all of those numbers get thrown out of the window, out the door when you actually put them in real action, real use based on how efficient those things are. You can have the highest numbers, yes, but if it's not a quality motor that's actually efficient,
Right.
it's just a lot of work with no actual
And
substance.
I worry about some of those, we get contacted at least once a week, that is not
Yep.
an exaggeration,
That's not-
from
yeah.
some overseas company. Hi, we sell 1,200 units a week of this amazing e-bike. R&D is really a lot of the cost of these bikes. And you have to ask yourself, do you want huge specs that are untested, or do you want quality and efficiency?
Quality, consistency.
The older I get, the more I realize I don't need the most powerful of something, but I want the most sussed
I want it
out,
to
efficient
work.
thing that works.
I want it to work.
So that is something to consider. Now, types of e-bikes, we don't want to hold you here all night. Let's take a look at folding e-bikes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who they're for. Now, TC and I both have been commuters on bikes. I don't think you would have commuted from Chicago to Schaumburg on a Brompton, would you?
No, but I would have taken the train then.
So let's just take a quick look here at what a folding e-bike is and what it might be for.
So that there is the Dahan K1, and this is our lowest price e-bike. We've got that on sale right now at $1,500 from 19, something like that.
Something like that.
But so yeah, this is your class 1, 20 miles an hour. Battery pack is here in the seat tube. And it's that rear drive hub motor with a 20-inch wheel. Simple fold where it folds in half and the handlebar folds down and the seat post drops. But it's that, anyone can hop on this bike from, a 4'6" child to a 6 foot tall adult. Anyone can hop on this. On the extremes always, but it's a very, you have height adjustments on the handlebar, height adjustments on the seat post. You've got a lot of flexibility for who can ride this. And so therefore it's a very functional bike for a lot of people. The power, the assist, kind of how this goes. It's a very simple, very reasonable amount. It's not gonna wheelie you. It's not gonna launch you
Let's
into
do
the.
this. Somebody said one of our mics just went out, so let's put it
Okay.
right here, and we'll just be both close to it. Ready? Ta-da.
Cool.
Now we
All right.
continue. Hope you can still hear us now. Thank you for the feedback. The one thing I like about this folding bike specifically is I brought this out to an event, and it felt very James Bond because it folds up. I threw it in my trunk, whipped it out of the trunk, and for me, this is a point A to point B.
Yeah.
I want to go to the city. I'm going to park at my parking garage, but I want to go to the park. Boom, second half. A lot of people do this with electric scooters, for example. However, I think that this bike is something that can totally fill that gap. Plus, it has 7 speeds and it's comfortable.
And it's got significantly more range than a lot of scooters too.
Oh, a lot more range. You would know. You scoot in your little scooter.
Yeah, but my scooter has 12 miles of range.
Right,
And,
that's-
I would have
for
no
most-
problem pedaling that 12 miles. So.
No, so this is one type of bike, and a folding bike like this, in different parts of the world, folding bikes are fantastic. This is an electric version, and they are a lot of fun. It's the Swiss Army knife, kind of. It'll do a lot of things that bikes can do, but it's not going to do all of them well.
Yeah, everything this is going to do is based around pavement. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to be off-road. It's not meant to, to get out and adventure and explore. It's that urban kind of cruiser, urban hustle bike.
Right. Yeah. So let's move on to another one here. And this is going to be crazy now because this is one of Specialized's new ones that we'll talk about. It's a little strange.
Yeah. It's the Rad Dad bike.
Rad Dad.
I wish I knew which mic went out because, they both showing that they still work. Hello. Hello. Yours is way lower than mine, but needs to be. But so yeah, here we have the Specialized Taro X. And so this is we may as well put that dropper up too. So this is a Class 3, 28 mile an hour, full squish mountain bike with fenders and a dropper post. So it's everything.
It's an amalgam.
It's like everything that Specialized can put on a bike, they did.
Well, when I saw this come out, I wondered, okay, who is this for and what market are they playing to? And then I kind of stumbled on it.
Everybody, because it's fun.
Jeep owners also.
Jeep owners too, yeah.
Like it can do off-road, but it also pulls a kid's trailer. It also has it does everything, and it has fenders.
So yeah, this one, you would have no problem like commuting with this, to and from work. But then let's say that your commute goes past a single track, mountain bike park. You can just hop in and go rip and have fun.
Yeah.
And so it's that like you can do anything that you want with this bike because it does everything. Mm-hmm. It's that full power, that 4 times motor. It's that, heavier, 48, 46 pounds, about that weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, super smooth ride, super comfortable, tons of power, tons of control. Nice big knobby tires. It's the do everything.
And
bike.
is it the most capable mountain bike that
No.
Specialized offers? No. But you can definitely do that also, and then tow your kids on the weekends.
Yeah, it's that if you have to own one bike to do everything,
This is it.
one. Yeah,
This is it, definitely.
Because you can ride this anywhere.
Now, I've ridden the Levo, which is the mountain bike specific mountain bike for this full suspension, and I love it, but it doesn't have the utility, the same utility of the racks and the fenders and things you can do.
Doesn't come stock with the lights. Yeah, that's where it kind of these are designed as slightly different things. So the big thing around the Taro is that absolutely everything bike. The Levo is more of that specifically a mountain bike, specifically made for mountain biking. It's not meant to go to run to in the rain. You have fenders. You can ride in the rain.
Might have been a clue.
And you can get to run your errands. You can use it as your daily ride. It's just a lot of fun.
And that's fun because you can go off-road. But then let's take a look at more of that hybrid arena or commuter arena. Move this guy over.
And most of these have kickstands too, which makes our life so much easier. Because we've always, a lot of people have been kind of hard on bikes with kickstands, but at the same time, when your bike weighs, 40 pounds and you don't have to lean it up against everything, and having a kickstand, oh man, life's great. So this is Vado. So this is the Specialized Vado. This is that, 4 times power, 28 miles an hour. This is not a dropper seat post. This is a suspension seat post, so it gives you a little bit of smoothness, a little bit of cushion there. But here, this Vado is the total, like commuter kind of utility bike. Comes with fenders, comes with that rear rack, so you have storage options. You have, you've got lights both front and rear. This one doesn't have, no, Como 5's got the radar. That's radar is something we get to later on. But yeah, this is more of that less do everything, absolutely mountain bike, and more, ride around town, cruise around town, including crushed limestone and kind of.
You're a parent, you got neighbors that go out and ride on the weekends. This is the perfect bike for that.
Yeah.
It's a little heavy, but it's still manageable. It has a really powerful motor. And honestly, it's good looking. It's really fun to ride too. The geometry on this one I really do enjoy. I don't think you need suspension up front.
But it's nice to have.
But it's nice to have, especially if you live in a cruddy area. So for me, if you're a commuter, this is going to be something to rip. Now, you could take the Rad Dad Taro, but this is really something that would be designed around commute. This is what I would focus on if you're that flat bar hybrid rider.
And one of the things that's nice about this, they did raise those handlebars significantly from a lot of the other hybrid bikes of its same class. So you get that more upright, more relaxed feel that so many of our customers want. We're so used to adding on, stem risers, stem extenders, things to get people more upright, more relaxed, and more in control. And so with this, more power, more weight, having more control, more stable bike is a huge benefit.
Definitely. And then the last one we're going to go before we jump into some Q&A, which you can always start doing. Now, just so you know, we're monitoring the chat on Facebook right now. So if you're on there, you can text in some questions starting now. That's where we got some of the info about the mic. Thank you. Okay, this one's going to just be ridiculous. Let me get this guy out.
Cool. Oh man, the globe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one's got like a motorcycle kickstand. Give me just a second.
So this is our heaviest. This is the globe. This one, you
See it.
Yeah,
Wow,
I'll
it's
lift that
monstrous.
for you.
Here, let me just move this. And I can push that back.
Oh, we're just moving it back.
And just move it closer.
Light down.
Nice.
Well, so this here is the Globe Hall. And so this is, what Specialized put out as their pure, like kind of urban utility is really a big part of what their design was here. They have both, this is the short tail version. They also now have a long tail version that's got a longer back end. And so this is, if you want to ditch your car, especially like city of Chicago, this is an ideal thing to have because it'll run groceries. It'll run you can get child seats for it. You can run your children to school. You can do everything that you want running around the city in this very solid package.
This is your car replacement. Like literally, replace your car with it. And the thing that I love too, this one, remember how we talked about the class system? This one does have the optional throttle. But here's how I would use it. If you're fully loaded up and this is your car replacement, you're going to be in traffic. So sometimes getting started on an analog bike is the hardest part, especially if you've got 30, 40, 50 pounds of groceries.
This one has 400 pounds.
419, they didn't want to go 420. Figure that one out. But up to 419 pounds. So one great use of this is to get offline, hit that throttle, boost it up, and it'll only boost you to 20, but the second you start pedaling, it's going to switch over to that class 328. So you can weave traffic, you can boost into traffic, but this is not something you want if you're on a 3-story walk-up.
No.
I have a hard time lifting and carrying this. I thought about this, and I was going to do a test and go to my girlfriend's house. She's on the 2nd story, and I'm like, well, I can absolutely lift it up the stairs. Do I want to? Do I lock it up outside? It is heavy, heavy, heavy. But just like he talked about the range of use, this has a double seat post collar. It can go incredibly high. If you're over 6 foot, no problem. This can go up and down. This thing is so configurable between bags, panniers, and everything, but I wouldn't be putting this in the back of my car most likely.
Correct. I mean, I can and I have, but it's not fun. I'm going to go turn the heat on. It's getting a little cold in here.
So we have the heat off for the audio. So right now, though, that is some of the basics and different styles of e-bikes. So right now, if you have any particular questions about e-bikes, you can always contact us here at the shop. We will be doing a lot more things like this live stream on different topics. So one thing that's really important, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching it on Facebook, comment down below things and you'll be able to get info and insight from us from inside the bike shop.
Yeah.
So taking a look here, does anyone have any questions? I'm going to jump over to YouTube real quick and check the questions there. What are your e-bike final thoughts?
I mean, come in and try it. That's just, it's something we've said 1,000 times already today, but that's the big thing is get a feel for it and get that personal understanding as to this is how I ride an e-bike on top, when I'm out. Because that's so much of what, if it's going to work for you or not, that's going to where you're going to decide. And yeah, if you want to come in and talk specs, and we can. But yeah, your experience, your ride knowledge is going to be so much more helpful in our opinion.
And you can piece out and nerd out all you want over specs, but at the same time, go out and ride. There is never a substitute. And I know a lot of things in life you can't try before you buy. That is one of our biggest focuses here. We want you to test ride. If you want to see what a Garmin's like, come talk to us. I can lend you one of mine. And that's what makes this bike shop so unique. Mm-hmm. And hopefully your bike shop as well. Just because we don't do something doesn't mean your local bike shop won't. Don't be afraid to ask.
Go ask. Go talk to them.
In the meantime, then, this will be a great winter. Checking finally for any last questions. And it looks like we are clear today. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. It's so much. Different topics. Comment down below. If you ever want to support what we do, look us up on Patreon. That is a great way you can help us out to create more exciting content.
Thank you.
In the meantime, TC's favorite phrase?
Ride more bikes. No.
Out.